Hey everyone, Harry here, starchy former federal prosecutor, here with my good friend Karen Friedman Agnifilo, the street smart, savvy state prosecutor from the office that is now about to prosecute Donald Trump. And I was thinking about her when Judge Merchan there imposed a gag order, which showed he really means business. This was on the heels of a hearing in which he was really pretty firm and gave up quite a hard time to Todd Blanche, Trump's lawyer, saying you've made these outrageous allegations of misconduct from the DA. You haven't backed them up at all. This is part of a pattern. All in all, kind of a chilling exchange and hearing for Trump's lawyer going into the first ever criminal trial of a former president. I was hoping to compare notes and get Karen's vantage point on this, how unusual it is to have the gag order already slapped down in the state system, what her take is on Merchan and Trump, and what sort of from here, because Merchan has really shown firm resolve, and Trump certainly has a track record of violating these things. So are we set up for a series of showdowns? Hello, Karen. Thanks for being here.
Hello. Good to see you. Thanks for having me.
So what was your take on Merchan's gag order and the whole week?
Yeah, so it struck me that Judge Merchan is how we pronounce it in New York State Court. I've been before him many, many times.
Okay, thank
Merchan. It strikes
so
me.
Merchan, like shush.
Merchan, yes.
Shush in the court. Okay.
Merchan. That's how we all pronounce it. So,
all right.
And we've known him a long time as a judge. So,
thank you.
So the judge is. It seemed to me that he was very much holding on to this gag order until the hearing to see how it went, because in the middle of the hearing, Donald Trump went out and made his normal press conferences and talking about the case and talking about Michael Cohen and talking about the judge and the prosecutor and all the things that he always talks about. And I think the judge, getting ready for trial, said, okay, we're now going to start picking a jury very, very soon. It's time to protect the sanctity of the trial. He hasn't stopped. He's continued going out there and talking. And so I think that was what the impetus was and the timing of it, because it came out right after that. The gag order is very limited. It's very, very similar to the one that's already been upheld in Washington, D.C., that Judge Chutkan imposed, and then the D.C. Circuit limited, slightly limited from what Judge Chutkan imposed. And the language is tracks very similarly. And I think that was very smart of the judge to do, because, again, if it's already passed muster there in a federal appellate court, it should be fine in state court as well. So I think it signaled he's getting ready for trial, and he's thinking about the prospective jury pool, and you've got to protect the jury at all costs. It's the opposite of what happened in state court, the civil case right down the street a couple weeks ago when Judge Engoron sat and listened to a bench trial. You could be you can be a lot more flexible and a lot more loose. You can allow a lot more to come out, because he can ignore things, for example, that shouldn't be in the record or that are inappropriate. But when you have a jury, it's completely different. And so I think,
and I think it really is a game changer in so many ways. And if I'm not mistaken, it is modeled after the DC gag order, but they're not talking about juries yet. I think that added that third part, don't talk about or anything that could corrupt jurors. And that's a big category. I do take your point. It's not the whole universe, and the DC Circuit wanted to give him a slice to still politic and trash Jack Smith himself, if not the people in court. But if you think about what, as a judge, you're going to be worried Trump saying that could infect the jury, which is anonymous but not sequestered, it's a pretty big category, right? If he, so we're gonna see, but let's say, well, I don't know. Have you? I don't know if it sounds like. Let me just start with this because Judge Merchan. It really seemed, he was very methodical and fast and decisive in all the motions and they largely went for Bragg's office and against Trump. Nothing so unusual there in terms of a pretrial. But do you? He certainly gives the impression that if Trump goes outside the lines, he's going to police them pretty sharply. Is that your experience with him and his reputation?
Yeah, so that is my experience with him, and that's my experience generally in New York State Court, right? It's very much defendants are treated a certain way. The rules are what they are. Runs a pretty tight ship. However, Donald Trump has already been treated very differently than all other defendants, right? There's no way any other defendant would be allowed to get away with what he gets away with. So let's look at what Donald Trump has posted actually after the gag order and this morning. There are 2 posts, and let's see if you think it certainly walks up to the line. But this is where we're going to test Judge Merchan and see if he's going to violate Trump. So he posted this morning, it says, Judge Juan Merchan, who's suffering from an acute case of Trump derangement syndrome, parentheses, whose daughter represents crooked Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, Adam Shifty Schiff, and other radical liberals, has just posted a picture of me behind bars, her obvious goal, and makes it completely impossible for me to get a fair trial. Has now issued another illegal, un-American constitutional order as he continues to try and take away my rights. This judge, by issuing a vicious gag order, is wrongfully attempting to deprive me of my First Amendment right to speak out against the weaponization of law enforcement, including the fact that crooked Joe Biden, Merrick Garland, and their hacks and thugs are tracking and following me all across the country, obsessively trying to persecute me while everyone knows I have done nothing wrong. He then follows it up with, so let me get this straight. The judge's daughter is allowed to post pictures of her dream of putting me in jail. The Manhattan DA is able to say whatever lies about me he wants. The judge can violate our laws and Constitution at every turn, but I'm not allowed to talk about the attacks against me and the lunatics trying to destroy my life and prevent me from winning the 2024 presidential election, which I am dominating. Maybe the judge is such a hater because his daughter makes money by working to, quote, get Trump. And when he rules against me over and over, he's making her company and her richer and richer. How can this be allowed?
Wow. I hadn't read that. And that is like smoking, incendiary. Now let's go back to the order though, because I know it covers courtroom personnel. Obviously this, even if it didn't, just in terms of polluting the jury pool, because it's basically by the end calls him a crook, a total like on the take because of his daughter. Am I right that it covers courtroom personnel, but not the judge himself and not the DA himself?
Let's pull up the order.
And by the way, we should point out that Bragg is the one who brought this motion that the judge waited until after the hearing. I quite agree. Took his temperature before granting. So it's Bragg who will make the initial decision whether to run in and say time to go after him. Okay. Yeah. What's it say? Wow, though, that is, can you imagine being the, just, oh my God.
So the Judge Merchan, has imposed a gag order that specifically says that the people's motion for a restriction on extrajudicial statements by the defendant is granted to the extent that defendant is directed to refrain from the following: making or directing others to make public statements about known or reasonably foreseeable witnesses concerning their potential participation in the investigation or in this criminal proceeding. B, making or directing others to make public statements about counsel in the case other than the DA, members of the court staff and the district attorney's staff, or the family members of any counsel or staff member, if those statements are made with the intent to materially interfere with or cause to materially interfere with counsel's or staff's work in this criminal case, or with knowledge that such interference is likely to result. And C, making or directing others to make public statements about any prospective juror or any juror in this criminal proceeding. So somehow,
this is designed to be the nastiest possible thing that doesn't violate.
correct.
Right. So it'd be interesting. On the other hand, he doesn't have to tolerate it. It's not, we're going into, let's just think if something like this he actually said when a jury was insulted. Well, it's funny. Nothing there says, when you think about polluting a jury pool, saying this is all, actually making comments about the prosecution itself would be front and center. So he's going to have to, deal with that. He can't have the jury in front of whom Trump, this may be a future tape, probably won't testify, basically testifying through the newspaper and totally trashing. So that's going to be there. What do you think? There is a showdown in the near future, yeah?
Well, look, I mean, he's going after the judge's daughter, right? And talking about the judge's daughter. It doesn't violate the order, but boy, he's doing his...
And the judge also. Let me ask you this. Let's close. This is going to be so much more here. I'm so glad to be able to talk to you as this state trial gets underway. And I didn't realize that you're a veteran before Judge Mershon. That's invaluable. Trump's a very tricky defendant because if he gets a mistrial, that's just a delay for him, and you have to restart the clock. His incentives are kind of different. So Mershon will have a guy who he's trying to constrain, who is a little bit on the make my day plan, right? I mean, what's the judge to do when you have someone who is also just trying to delay things any way at all?
Well, judges are loath to allow a defendant to cause his own mistrial. Otherwise, that would incentivize bad behavior. It would incentivize defendants who don't like the jury that they got, or they don't like how certain witnesses testified, or they don't like the judge. It would incentivize them to engage in bad behavior. So it would be almost impossible for Trump to create his own situation where there's a mistrial. But then again, he somehow, I would have never in a million years predicted that the Department of Justice through the Southern District of New York would dump thousands of pages of material on the eve of trial, causing a 30-day delay anyway, or not quite 30,
but
20 days.
Shit happens in trial, right? And there are two sides of the story, and shit will happen in this one. And I do think Mershon will be sorely tried, but he's not the kind of guy. This is a perfect example, right? It skates just around, like that Charlie Chaplin movie, the actual terms of the gag order, and yet you could never let a jury hear this. So
you can never let a jury hear it, and it's also such a strange tactic to attack the judge. I mean, you're supposed to try to ingratiate yourself to the judge and hope that the judge will give you the benefit of the doubt. But Trump just doesn't do that ever.
We're in a different world. And you're in that world, right? You're going to be, I mean, I know you've spent years of your life, of course, in those courts, but you're going to be around for the trial?
I will pop in and out, yes.
Great. Well, we'll have plenty to talk about starting here, and we'll see whether this specific, I think of Tourette syndrome or something, is just like, incredibly vituperative outburst on his part prompts any consequences. But if not now, it's coming soon. Karen Friedman-Agnifilo, as always, thanks for being here with your all your insights, but especially your state court, state prosecutor chops.
Good to see you, Harry. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed this video and other Talking Feds content, please take a second to like and subscribe. Talk to you later.